Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. This is the third and final entry in George Lucas's Star Wars prequel trilogy, and this is the one that bridges the gap between trilogies old and new. So this shows us the final stages of how Anakin Skywalker, this once great hope, this Jedi prophesized to bring balance to the Force and bring good times, ultimately, unfortunately, succumbs to his hatred and anger and fear and joins the dark side and becomes a Sith Lord and ultimately becomes Darth Vader, who, of course, is the most notorious and infamous of all cinematic villains. So definitely it has a challenge. The whole prequel's had a challenge, which, you know, to varying degrees, many would argue it doesn't quite achieve or live up to, but I mean, this final chapter, maybe it's just our morbid curiosity in seeing this, you know, good guy turn evil, that really delivers, I think. And to me, without a doubt, this is the best of the prequels, without a doubt. And I do think, you know, there are some people who, let's say, absolutely hate the prequels, even some people who at least say hate Phantom Menace, hate Attack of the Clones, sort of maybe possibly give this a free pass a little bit, you know, like, oh, it'll do. But I think this is a movie that just kind of very close to perfection, though there's still just too much silly shit, too many flaws to quite call it, you know, worthy of the three prior Star Wars trilogy films that just achieved so much greatness. This one just, it comes very, very close, but it doesn't quite, but it's still a fantastic movie. And this, you know, this epic space adventure, action, fantasy tragedy, really. I mean, that's what it really is all about. It is a tragedy of Anakin Skywalker, where you kind of sense a little bit that maybe George Lucas is bringing just a little bit of his kind of personal life into it, like telling his personal story, because you do, if you pay attention to some of his interviews, like the story kind of reflects him a little bit, you know. He was this young guy full of potential, but meanwhile people were telling him no, just like, you know, the Jedi Council is always telling Anakin no, and he's like, oh, but I'm gonna be a great Jedi, come on guys. And, you know, finally he becomes this head of the Empire, and that's what George Lucas is the head of the Star Wars Empire. But he sold it off, so maybe he's redeemed. I don't know, but you sense a little bit of that. But you sense a little bit of in the Luke story too. So I guess kind of, if we want to look at it as Lucas's grand vision of this is just 6 movies, then I do think there are shades of the triumphant Luke story, and there are shades of the tragic Anakin story, for anybody, really, I would say. It is, you know, a tremendously entertaining movie for all the lulls that we have to endure through Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace prior. This one, it just goes right for it. Like, George Lucas has accomplished quite a bit here, and a very action-oriented, very entertaining, climactic chapter, and the whole movie almost feels like one big climax, which I love. It's something a little bit different, so it kind of feels this is all about ending everything. Everything is coming to a close. Everything, you know, with the Jedi are going to be extinct, and Anakin's going to turn to the dark side. Padme's going to die. Spoiler alert. Yoda's going to go into exile. Obi-Wan's going to go into exile, and, you know, Luke and Leia are going to be born, all that shit. Jar Jar is going to be beheaded. We can only hope. No, he survives this whole trilogy. Let that sink in. Anyway, you know, and you kind of think, well, like, one of the heavy criticisms of the prequels was how the characters are flat, the acting is a little bit monotone, things like that. But in watching this movie, I kind of wondered, like, what if, just what if, Anakin Skywalker turned out to be this great character that was, like, amazing, that as good as any of the original trilogy characters, and same with Padme. What if we just love those characters so much? This would be a devastating movie, really. I think, you know, it'd almost be irrecoverable going into the next film, A New Hope, which I wouldn't say is intentional, but it's something to think about, I'd say. But anyway, it's a very entertaining film. Like, right from the get-go, we have a hugely entertaining action scene of we're meeting Anakin and Obi-Wan a few years later. The beard on Obi-Wan has come in very nicely. He's gone full Obi-Wan basically. And Anakin, he has like the longer hair. He has the scar. Of course, he has a mechanical hand because of his previous adventure in Attack of the Clones, left him with a chopped off arm. And so he looks a little bit older, and we can tell that he's a lot more skilled. In fact, this is kind of, well, aside from maybe some parts in Attack of the Clones, we feel like, yeah, you know what, Obi-Wan really is kind of holding Anakin back when you think about it. Like, Anakin's just doing, like, force flip, and meanwhile, Obi-Wan's, like, just kind of falling over and shit, but whatever. It's a really great opening scene. It's like a 20-minute scene where they're going to rescue Chancellor Palpatine, who has been kidnapped by Count Dooku, the great Christopher Lee, once again entering in the film. And at least, if you want to compare this and like Lord of the Rings, at least they fucking kept him in this opening scene in the Star Wars films, as opposed to cutting him out and leaving him in the special edition. If you remember that, he didn't go to the premiere of Return of the King because, like, I'm not in the fucking movie, I don't want to go. Anyway, getting off on a tangent there, but Christopher Lee's great, and Ian McDiarmid is really great too. I mean, as Anakin is kind of turning to dark side and becoming more sort of familiar as what would become Darth Vader, we definitely sense Ian McDiarmid definitely turning into Emperor Palpatine, in his kind of evil voice, and kind of egging Anakin on. He was like, kill Dooku, and he's like, okay, chops his head off. And there's some great scenes with the robots again, and it does kind of mirror in a lot of ways the beginning scene of the Phantom Menace, where again we have two Jedi going on a ship and fighting robots. Well, I guess every Star Wars movie has a scene that opens on a ship, but whatever. I thought that was pretty good, and there's some good stuff with R2-D2, where like Obi-Wan has like the little communicator thing. He's like, R2, open up the door, and blah blah blah. And meanwhile, it's like broadcasting all over, and those big droids are looking around R2-D2. You can tell, like, just like he's a prop basically, but you can tell he's afraid. Then he like takes out the flamethrower, and that's pretty cool. And we meet Grievous. Grievous is really cool. He has all these, I guess, stolen from Jedi he killed. He has all these lightsabers, and he has this cough and stuff like that. And he's a pretty cool character. I mean, he's probably the only central villain aside from Darth Vader, maybe, that's like robot. So I thought that was kind of cool. And it all just, amounts to the daring escape, it's something that we love in seeing in a Star Wars movie. Anakin proving that, that little bit of dialogue that everyone likes to pick apart, oh, he was a great fighter pilot, the best I've seen. Meanwhile, okay, so he's flying this ship that no one knows how to fly, and he lands it, semi-safely. It's like, another happy landing. So that's all good, and we're back to the place, and Padme's pregnant, and it's kind of this whole thing like, now what? But he's starting to get these dreams about her dying in childbirth, so that kind of sets him off a little bit. And with them, I mean, still there's just, unfortunately, the dialogue that just is insufferable. Like, there's this one scene, I can't believe they were editing the movie and found it to be acceptable. Like, I love you so much, and you're so beautiful. Oh, you think love has blinded you? Is that why? Whatever fucking stupid dialogue it is. But by the way, I mean, Natalie Portman, absolutely beautiful in these movies. I mean, Lucas essentially treats her like a Barbie doll throughout the whole series, where always dressing her up, and she does it. I mean, she's able to do it. She looks great in all the costumes that she's been put in. She's been put in quite a few different, very memorable get-ups throughout this whole entire series. Like, we have the very first film where she's in the makeup and in the Queen Amidala kind of get-up, which is really nice, and as the Handmaiden as well. And of course, it's very memorable in Attack of the Clones, how she's in that kind of tight white suit, and kind of, here's something for the boys, and she has her midriff showing, and abs. looks good. And here she's just letting her hair out a little bit, which I like. And there's one point where she's actually does have the hairdo, the Leia hairdo. I think it's in that first scene. And so I mean, props to Natalie Portman throughout this whole series for at least filling in a costume. Not that she's given much to work with other than really lame dialogue, but I mean, this is a visual movie. George Lucas obviously kind of appreciates kind of beauty, and he got that plus acting chops in Natalie Portman. He got a handsome character with not so much acting chops with Hayden Christensen. But to his credit, it seems like he's maybe between movies he was taking acting classes or something. Maybe got a coach where he's like, "Can I show emotion? Grrr! Good, Hayden, a little more." So you feel like he's trying a little bit harder in this one, because this is a tall order. This movie, I mean, we got to see in a somewhat convincing way, at a breakneck pace that this movie is kind of confined to. We have to see this final descent into Anakin becoming Darth Vader, which, I mean, it isn't entirely convincing, but this isn't a character study. This is a space adventure, space opera, and it gets the job done in a lot of respects. I mean, what I admire about this movie the most still is what I admire about The Phantom Menace, which is the visuals, which look, again, this is like full force, all CGI sets and shit like that, but to its credit, it looks better than Attack of the Clones did. Like, within the span of these movies, from 1999 to 2005, you can just see right in front of you kind of effects progressing, special CGI effects, which the effects in the original trilogy, I would say, aside from them going completely, full on with some of the puppetry and costuming, especially like the Jabba's palace kind of stuff, they remain somewhat consistent. But here we see this evolution, which is very interesting to kind of see before, unfold before us. So I am really fascinated by that, and in true Star Wars fashion and true serial fashion, it's all about everyone going to these planets and having adventures. So everyone kind of gets separated, and they're doing their own things. Like we have Yoda going to the Wookiee planet, and he fucking meets Chewbacca, because of course you got to bring Chewbacca in, as many characters, like we brought C-3PO, R2-D2, let's bring in Chewbacca. Apparently there was supposed to be, at some point, like, or at least talks about bringing in a young Han Solo, which I'm glad they didn't do, which just would have been stupid. But I thought all that stuff with Yoda was great, helping out the Wookiees and things like that. And of course, later on, he would go on to battle the Emperor himself, like, kind of like the two head honchos of the light side, the dark side, going at it, which is a very entertaining scene. And we kind of see, again, the movie, the series has very memorable visuals, and there's that very memorable location of where the Senate meetings take place, and to see just talking scenes take place in those in the movies prior, to finally see like an action scene take place there with Yoda and the Emperor fighting there, I thought was pretty cool, actually. A good kind of I don't know, like a juxtaposition to that, or intense negotiations, as they refer to it as. We have Obi-Wan going to that other planet and fighting General Grievous, with his lightsabers all over the place, and that's a cool scene. I think that's a fun scene. I mean, come on, how could you not like that scene? I don't care. Come on. And of course, Anakin, and his succumbing to the dark side, where we have the Emperor, or to soon be the Emperor, whispering in his ear the whole time, like he's supposed to have this little assignment to follow him around and see kind of what his plans are. Meanwhile, Palpatine sees right through that, and he kind of lures him in with stories of the dark side. Like they go to this theater and they're watching like an in vitro fertilization or something like that, like just like floating in the sky. He's like, "Have you heard the story of Darth Plagueis," or whatever his name was? Yeah, Darth Plagueis, it sounds right. We could make people come back to life. He's like, "What? Hold on, make people come back to life? I'm afraid that my lovely wife is going to die, so hey, let's talk a little bit. So it's very transparent, but apparently not to Anakin, who's supposed to be at one with the Force. But whatever, it's this seduction kind of thing, which I think that is a really good scene. That's when we kind of realize, yep, this is it. This is how it's going down. And there's stuff with Mace Windu fighting Palpatine, but the Force lightning and making him disfigured or whatever, making him look like the Emperor that we know from the original trilogy. And Mace Windu gets killed, and that sucks. I mean, well, he went out like a champ. Let's say that. I mean, props to Samuel Jackson for dying a almost heroic death. Like, he was this close to stopping the whole Empire with his purple lightsaber. So you got to give him credit for that. So it all kind of amounts to what we want to see for all these movies, which is Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker finally dueling it out, and they milked that for all it's worth. And it's kind of glorious, though, at the same time. Undeniably over the top. Like, it's like, okay, settle down, George. They're in this lava planet and their lightsabers are wailing around, and they hop on this like pillar that's falling in lava, and they're jumping through thing to thing to thing, and you're like, holy shit, this is a little much. But it's at the same time, it's like, it's still cool. Finally it amounts to I have the higher ground, Anakin. He jumps, cuts his legs off, which, oh yeah, okay, so Hayden Christensen isn't as tall as Daniel Prowse, but that solved it. And I think it was Obi-Wan's moment of hesitation, because like, they do figure out that it's Anakin, through the security footage. He's killing kids, like he kills younglings, potential Jedi, and he sees that, he can barely believe it, which I do think people kind of criticize the movies for not being emotionally convincing. I absolutely believe the emotion that Obi-Wan feels, where he's a person who's not supposed to be feeling emotion, but you can tell, I can't believe this. This can't be right. It's like, I cannot kill Anakin. He's my brother. And it's like, you do kind of sense that there is hesitance, which he leaves him for dead, but doesn't kill him, which is his biggest mistake. So Obi-Wan could have ended like the whole thing, but he doesn't, because of that moment of hesitation. So I mean, he has some fucking nerve, telling Luke about all that shit. But whatever. All amounting to the tragedy, the great, horrible fall of Anakin Skywalker, turning into Darth Vader, with the Emperor at the Emperor's side, and Padme dying of a broken heart, I guess. Though they never say that. For some reason, I thought it was actual dialogue in the movie, the way people put it, but apparently it's not. The robot just says, "She's lost the will to live." Oh, oh, Luke. Oh, Leia. Okay, goodbye. So then they bring them off, and Organa guy, he's like, I guess I'll take the girl. We've always wanted a girl, me and my wife. And Obi-Wan's like, goes to Tatooine to live in exile, and he gives Luke to Joel Edgerton, who's Owen. And, Joel Edgerton, he's got to feel pretty happy. He gets the final shot of the movie. That's not too bad, huh? And we're supposed to believe, okay, so it's all connected. And meanwhile, no, not really. I mean, there's still some kind of stuff. It's like, well, okay, I guess this is how it's supposed to be, how this connects. But meanwhile, there's all this other extended universe, extended canon, stuff like that, which I'd like to get into. I'd like to watch, Clone Wars or whatever, read some of the novelizations, what have you. But, the movies as is, I think they connect fine. I think this is a tremendous film. I really do. I do think there are portions where the acting is actually really good. The best acting we've seen in the prequel trilogy, I would say. Ewan McGregor, once again, great. He gives the best performance in the movie, I'd say. You were the chosen one. You were my brother. I loved you. And, you do feel that. You feel that conviction there. I don't care what you say. You feel it. Hayden Christensen, at least he's a little improved. Ian McDiarmid, absolutely brilliant. He can play this role in his sleep. He's just so... He taps into this evil that I think, we expect these accomplished actors to just, turn it on and off like a switch. But, I mean, he gives it his all throughout this whole series, kind of playing this conniving, power lustful kind of character, which I think he has a story that kind of comes full circle too. I love seeing Christopher Lee again. Uh, who's the other guy? I don't know. Jimmy Smits. Yeah, Jimmy Smits. Whatever. But I think it's a wonderful film, just shy of being great, this great classic movie. But I do think it's worthy ultimately of being a part of this series. Which, the movie that was prior to this had a lot of problems with it. Phantom Menace had a lot of problems. This has the least problems, and it's the most enjoyable. And in a lot of ways, I would say, obviously, even though George may tell you otherwise, oh, I meant this to be watched from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would say still watch the original trilogy first. If you have like kids and you want to introduce them to the movies, no doubt about it, and then maybe show them these a little bit later. Or if you don't want to do that business, this I think honestly, Revenge of the Sith could stand on its own as with the presentation, digital filming, green screen filming, things like that. So, I mean, I give it tremendous credit for that, and George Lucas credit for that, and his vision of these films credit for that. Um, I'm impressed by them. I like them. I feel ultimately, if I'm gonna do Star Wars marathon, they're welcome in it. But let's see if the Force Awakens will be another welcome member of the party. It's just days away. It is so close. I'm so excited. Um, with these movies, they're all about history kind of repeating itself and things happening in the past that happen in the future and in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So things happening. And one thing that I'm absolutely worried about is the excitement for it, which I mentioned in my Phantom Menace review. I wasn't hugely excited for that movie, but needless to say, the excitement for the movie is notable almost more than the movie itself. We look at these, archival newscasts of seeing all these fans, guys dressed up as Jar Jar and Darth Maul or whatever. They're like, "Oh, I'm so excited for the movie," and meanwhile, being like, "Oh shit, man," whatever. But it's like we're seeing the same thing with the Force Awakens, where it's like everyone loves this movie already. Everyone loves that little BB-8 creature, I mean robot. Everyone loves Kylo Ren as the villain, and it's like, we haven't met these characters yet. Why are we doing the same thing that we did all these years ago? Come on. So just, I want to be cautious going into the movie, but at the same time, I'm really fucking excited. I love Star Wars. Is there anything better than Star Wars? I don't fucking know. So that's my review. So thank you very much for watching. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all the good stuff. Visit Derek237.com for more, and my channel in general for more. So we're almost there, Force Awakens. Hopefully I'll get to see it and review it. But until then, I'll see you next time, and may the Force be with you, always.